Welcome, one and all, to another edition of the Defo and Lubie, right here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. Schmutz is their domain, whether it's water, fire, flood, mold, meaning where most of us, it scares us to hear those things in our home, they embrace it and they attack it. What do I mean by that? Well, the fact that you can reach out to them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, means they're aggressive. They're open to your needs and here to help you. The fact that between Michael, Robert, and their team, they have over 60 years of experience means they know what they're doing, and you're going to get top quality when it comes to their services. Also, because they have licensed contractors on staff, they can not only assess the situation, but they can come out and take care of it as well. So they can come out upon the appointment. You can reach them 24/7. Check out what, if anything, is wrong. And if they do find something wrong, they themselves as an organization can take care of it, eradicate it, and make your life easier. So what does that do? Simple, right? That's what we're looking for in these days. We're all stressed. We're all tired. So much going on in the world. We want our decisions to be made simple. For us, Water Cleanup of Florida does that for you. Give them a call, 954-579-0356, 954-579-0356. If you mention 5 Reasons or Lubie, 5 Reasons or Lubie, get a free inspection during business hours. You can also reach them, find them, WCUFL.com, WCUFL.com. Also on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Water Cleanup FL, at Water Cleanup FL, Water Cleanup of Florida. We clean up your schmutz. Even Water Cleanup of Florida, I don't think clean up the schmutz that is the Miami Heat right now. Excuses, call it whatever you want. If you're watching that team, to me, right now, it's reminiscent of what we saw versus the Bucks in the first round last year. That was fatigue. It was a team that played longer than anyone in a season that was strange, coming off a season that was strange, and they were just gassed, and the Bucks met a team that was gassed. This team doesn't look gassed as much as they look hurt. If you look, Jimmy Butler is not being aggressive, even though he's a guy that was aggressive the entire playoffs and elite the entire playoffs, was the best player in the playoffs from what we've seen from Jimmy Butler. And since missing the second half of Game 3, Jimmy Butler has not been himself. Kyle Lowry has not been himself since the Atlanta Hawks series when he hurt his hamstring. PJ Tucker, we know, was banged up, bruised, does not look like himself. Strus was in and out of the game, can't hit the side of a barn. And Tyler Herro never looked like himself and hasn't played the last 2 games. So Miami Heat look injured, hurt. And last night was that. The Heat were in it for a while, and the Celtics eventually started making shots, and the Heat didn't. We talk about all of that right here on the Defo Show with Lubie, on a post-mortem of what was a disastrous game for the Miami Heat for many reasons on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Great to be with you here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest and a well-illuminated Mike Lubitz. Great to be with you here on ION Channel. It was good also to get that opening clip in and start the show because it served as an interruption and a stop to Lubie's pre-show whining about the Miami Heat. Because to quote the late, great Don Meredith, the party's over.
Yeah.
Turn out the lights. The Flowers are in a punch there for Lubie's Miami Heat, unfortunately, although still a possibility that they could bounce back, win one in Boston, bring the series back to South Florida here, and the, what is it, FXS? Is that
FTX Arena.
I'm not up on cryptocurrency. Should I be up on cryptocurrency? People, I saw their face buried in their hands, some pictures in the paper, because cryptocurrency somehow took a giant hit last week.
Well, it's been taking a hit for the last 4 months. I mean, it was I don't know if it's a fad thing, but I don't think it's what people think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be.
What is it exactly? Money. I mean, what are you buying? Are you buying anything that has some foundation and fundamental value, or are you just buying like a principle? Well, what is that?
It's
cryptocurrency.
There isn't. I mean, if you talk about blockchain, that's an actual thing. Cryptocurrency is a sort of.
I mean, if you buy gold, you have a brick of gold, right? I mean, a piece of it.
Yes.
If you buy silver, you're buying silver. You're buying a commodity. What are you buying if you're buying cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and all of that
it's
stuff?
It's the same thing. It's attributing value to an idea, which is what gold is. Gold is just some substance that, to the Native Americans, I'm sure meant shit. So it's just whatever value we attribute to the substance. And it's what crypto is. And there may be a future, but I don't know if it's what though, like I have buddies that are like, it's everything. It's like, okay. I mean, the real
there's
stock
plenty
people.
of people that made giant scores. So
Yeah, it's fine if you got in and out. But I have people that like have held on thinking it's going to take over. It's going to be the worldwide currency. It's like maybe, but I don't know.
I would have gone into it last year. I would have invested all of my money.
For sure.
Invested it last year, and then of course it would be worth like 10% of what it was when I originally put the investment. Much like when I hit the real estate market hard in 2008.
Yep.
And I still remember my dad's words ring in my ears as the market began to steadily and almost at first suddenly collapse, and then just stayed that way for a while, and everybody was broke. And I remember him saying to me, Jeff, you've had a really good life, and attribute a lot of joy to your success. But the good news is you own 3 houses, and the bad news is you own 3 houses.
Yeah,
and that was it.
That's realistic. Yep.
Which ended up being 0 houses after I schwitzed out the period there of trying to explain to banks why I didn't have their money on time. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing. If you were betting cryptocurrency on the game last night and you had the Miami Heat, and remember we were talking about how curious that line was of the Celtics being favored on the road by 1.5 by the odds makers, the line makers, who obviously are very intuitive when it comes to this sort of thing. They're rarely wrong. Well, and they were only wrong to the extent that they didn't accommodate the Heat with enough points to make it worthwhile to make that bet, because they ultimately lost by 13. It was a close game. They were up at halftime by 5 in a horrible game. Just a brick festival. The final totals on this are disturbing, actually, if you're talking about the state of the game of basketball. And did you see Pat Riley? He actually looked worse.
Yeah, he looked.
At the end of that ball game when they had the shots at Pat Riley, he looked worse than he did in the portrayal of him in Winning Time by, what's the actor's name again that looks like Joe Pepitone?
Adrian,
the guy with the schnoz.
Yeah,
you always had it right on the tip of your tongue. Yeah. Anyway, he looked horrible. Riley, he literally looked like he had just seen his life passing in front of him.
Adrian Brody.
And realized
Adrian Brody.
Brody, yeah. They were about to turn out the lights on the Miami Heat. Just an horrendous performance.
No one's healthy. What are you going to do?
7 for 45 on 3-point shots.
And it's 2 straight games
7
now.
for 45.
2 straight games. Like the Celtics, and that's why I was frustrated and upset when it was close, and because I knew, I'm like, look, Tatum eventually is going to hit his. But Brown's going to eventually hit his.
He was 2 for 10 early in the game.
They couldn't hit shots, but it wasn't health. So eventually they'll get better. The Heat is health. Like every single guy on that team is hurt at this point, and it feels like last year. It feels like last year when they got to the Bucks and they just didn't have it. Whatever Pritchard did to Butler, I don't know, intentional, call it whatever you want. Butler, since missing that half of basketball, has not been Jimmy Butler. He's been Kyle Lowry of these playoffs. Like, he hasn't been aggressive. He's been tentative. His jumper is way short. And if you were watching him, his mid-range jumper had become science by the time they were at Game 3 of this series. That's when I was like, oh, that's why I didn't bitch. I didn't moan. People were texting me, oh, my God. I'm like, what is there to be frustrated about? Literally, even Strus went to the locker room. Like, if everyone has lower body injuries and they're shooters, if you played basketball before, you know if your back or your legs are hurting you, good luck. Like, so it's like, okay.
Well, it looked like they had their arms cut off also.
They had nothing. They had nothing.
Had broken wrists. 7 for 45 on 3-point shots. They suffer and have to endure a 24-2 Boston run.
Yeah, they were done.
At a point, I guess that was in the third quarter, 6.5 minute stretch there.
Yep.
The score went from like 59 to 58 to, I guess that would be 80 something.
It was like around the 4-minute mark of
game.
The third to like 10-minute mark, 9-minute mark of the fourth. That stretch right there, they hit their.
Strus,
they were done.
0 for 9 in the game. Lowry and Strus combined the last 2 games. 2 of your starters, 1 for 28 from the field.
Yeah.
That's Panther-esque. So what looks so promising, this is a thing, a dark cloud. It's almost like it's 4 o'clock at Calder Racecourse in the middle of July back in the day when you could set your watch to the fact that a dark cloud was going to be hovering over the western part of South Florida. And lightning bolts were going to be coming from the sky and coming within a very short distance of hitting you right in the head. And you realize, okay, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon here, and we are going to be covered and ensconced in just an absolute monsoon-like condition here anytime now and get swarmed under. Everybody run for cover. And that's kind of how the the game went. And maybe you can attribute it to injuries. I think that might be valid, Lubie. I don't like to use that as an excuse. Marcus Smart certainly is playing through some injuries.
He looks fine.
Isn't 100%. Al Horford looks to be 100%, even though he missed a couple of games, or at least one game, right? Al Horford missed one game with health protocols.
Yeah.
Which is what? I mean, he had a head cold, COVID. I don't know, but he's been dynamite, Al Horford. And wow, at his age, what versatility, huh?
Yeah.
Holy Tito Horford.
Yeah, he's been.
Remember Tito Horford with the University of Miami, or were you too young?
I do not remember him. My dad's talked about him. I know of Tito Horford.
He was like their big star there for a little while when they really didn't have much to offer. This was pre-Jim Larinaga era and pre-Leonard Hamilton. It was the very early days. Tito Horford was a big player for the University of Miami when they brought back the basketball program. And his son, Al, wow, I mean, carrying on the tradition, actually on a long term, has been a much better player than his father was. But he was great last night. What versatility. I mean, leading fast breaks, doing all kinds of stuff, twisting and turning, going to the basket, hitting threes, been on fire from three-point range. He didn't have a ton of points in the game last night, but certainly was one of the more influential players. And then Tatum got it together and ended up being the leading scorer for the Celtics, who now put themselves in a category, Lubie, where the odds are in our favor, right? The odds are in their favor. They are in a position now after a 2-2 tie in a series where some low 80s percentage, like 83% of the time, the team that wins game number 5 goes on to win the series. They now have game 6 in Boston. Many people would think after watching that performance last night that that was it. I mean, you can go ahead and throw in the towel. Flowers are in the punch, as we said, and looks like the party's over for the Miami Heat. So 2 very promising potential postseason runs look like they're coming to a sudden, quick, abrupt end as the Panthers got eliminated in 4 games. And I still can't find this anywhere. I don't know. You should be able to look this up, right? What were the odds before the series of the Lightning getting a sweep?
That's a great question.
And I haven't been able to find it. If anybody on the chat line wants to pop that in there, that would be great. And haven't been able to find it. But I'm assuming it had to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 10-1. And then on top of that, the Miami Heat looked like they had a very, very good chance to beat the Boston Celtics in this series. Had the home court edge, had a slightly better record during the regular season, and had the Yogi Berra-ism deep depth, which you thought was going to be an asset, but it looks like that's crumbling also, as the Celtics have been able to be the powerful force in the second half of the last couple of games, and the Miami Heat absolutely disintegrated in last night's game after leading by 5 at halftime in what was just a bona fide brickfest. It was a hard game to watch. 7 for 45 from 3. I'm sorry, that's not basketball, Lubie. I don't care, if you're down in the game and you're jacking up threes because you think that's a quick way to make it up. What is 7 for 45? I mean, if it was 7 for 50, that would be 14%. So we're talking about shooting 20% from 3-point range, something like that.
Yeah.
That's not going to get it done. And yet they keep doing it, keep hoisting them up there.
I don't see. That's my thing is and that's why if you notice, I've been the first one to bitch when they shoot too many threes. I've been the first one to complain when they don't have effort. Last night wasn't that. That's the thing is I don't use the injury thing as an excuse. I use the injury thing as, well, it makes sense. Like, the Bucks weren't going to beat the Celtics without Middleton. I don't give a shit how close the series was. At some point, it was going to hurt them. The Celtics have their 2 best players. If you have your 2 best players, then you'll be fine. You'll figure it out. Like, once you lose one of your best players, it changes everything. You're now asking more of everyone else. Strus, Vincent, and Caleb Martin are not carrying this team. And that's literally what it got to last night. Like, they weren't shooting threes because they were lazy. They weren't shooting threes because it was easy. Last night they were shooting threes because they're injured. And whether that's good or bad, excuse or not, that's a truth. Like, Jimmy Butler doesn't sit there hemming and hawing with the ball. He looked like a guy that was playing his first NBA game. Like, that's not Jimmy Butler. So it is what it is. Like, the Celtics will move on and they'll get to the finals. But Peyton Pritchard changed the series, and it's annoying.
Remove those sharp objects there from the background. I see you.
Well, I'm not even upset. It's just annoying. Peyton Pritchard tripped Jimmy Butler, and it changed the series. And I think that's bullshit that nothing happened.
Oh, listen to you. No, you're blaming that.
Well, it's 100%. It's 100%.
Nobody ever established that.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't get that. I don't. Spo was pissed about it. Butler was pissed about it. But the Heat aren't the kind of franchise that are going to go and scream about it when it was clear what he did, and he changed the series.
All right. We're going to calm you down here, Mike Lubie. It's over. Why don't you just resign yourself to the fact that it's over? And I like that. And it would be nice if they somehow pulled a miraculous comeback and at least got it to a Game 7. But That didn't look like it was in the stars. So Game 6 tomorrow night, Boston Celtics with a chance to kind of coronate themselves. And the Eastern Conference Trophy, I believe, is named the Bob Cousy Trophy.
I think so.
And the Eastern Conference MVP, Finals MVP trophy, I believe, is also named for Larry Bird.
Yeah, it's Larry Bird.
So all signs are pointing to the fact that this thing is going to culminate in a 6-game victory for the Boston Celtics. Although, they still have to play the game, and who knows, some miraculous recovery. Dr. Harlan Selznick might be the MVP of the Miami Heat right now. Our good friend Dr. Harlan Selznick, been the Heat team physician since the very inception of the franchise. Goes all the way back to 1988. A great guy, by the way, just a tremendous individual. I've been fortunate enough when I had an injury a long time ago to have Dr. Harlan Selznick give me some personal treatment, and he operated on my son's knee a couple of times. Unfortunately, it didn't respond as well as you would have hoped. I don't know exactly what the extent of the damage was, but if Dr. Harlan Selznick couldn't solve the problem on any kind of a permanent basis where he was back to normal, then probably nobody could, right?
Yeah, he's the man.
Where are you going to go? James Andrews? I don't know. I'll take Selznick over Dr. James Andrews.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if you have Tommy John, you want to go to Dr. James Andrews, no?
Yes.
He didn't invent the procedure or, devise the procedure, but he certainly became the go-to guy for all orthopedic surgeries. Anyway, Dr. James Andrews should be on the bench with Dr. Harlan Selznick because they need just a group of physicians to try and figure out how by tomorrow night they're going to be well enough to go on the road and beat the Boston Celtics when they've been inclined to go into these ridiculous droughts as they did last night to the tune of 24-2 in a 6.5-minute span. So that was ugly. That was the result of the basketball playoff game. The Golden State Warriors have a chance tonight to wrap up their series. Many people figure that that's going to happen against the Dallas Mavericks. So right now, I mean, you probably would get very prohibitive odds if you were a sick degenerate and you wanted to bet who's going to be in the finals. It does look very much, and it's coming into focus as a Golden State Boston Celtic. I mean, if you have the guts, maybe we could talk Mayo into doing this.
To take the Heat?
To take the Heat and Dallas to meet in the finals? Probably get a pretty nifty price on that, but like your money in Bitcoin, it's likely to go up in smoke if you get in there a little bit too late. There's not much more to say about last night's Miami Heat playoff game against the Boston Celtics, except that the line makers were not only right, they were righteous.
Too nice.
Righteous. What did they know that we didn't about the condition of the Miami Heat?
They were paying attention to things that we weren't. I mean, look, the ESPN isn't either. ESPN's hailing it as Boston. Look, Boston didn't shoot well either. That's my problem with these games.
Boston looked like crap in the first half also. I mean like absolute garbage.
It wasn't like they played so well. The Heat just hit the side of a
First quarter
barn.
was 19-17 in a brick fest.
It was bad. It was 15-15 with like a minute left.
You've heard of Oktoberfest? That's always great with the beer. This was brick fest.
Yeah, it was.
Brick after brick after brick.
I thought I had gone back to the 90s.
Brick.
I'm like, when did the Knicks Heat get onto that? I'm like, what game is this? It was the worst. Even at halftime, it was like in the 30s. Like, what?
Why isn't the term brick used more frequently in telecasts of the NBA, especially with 7 for 45 3-point shooting by one team? You would have to think that at least 10 of those shots were labeled bricks. No?
They don't use that term at all anymore.
And they refuse to acknowledge that the guy is just chucking up a brick. A boulder.
Strus and Oladipo, like literally, when they put up a three the last couple of games, it's just gross. It's like, okay.
Oh,
Lowry, too. Lowry just looks
Lowry.
horrendous.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
A clutch player. I mean, I don't know that he's Jerry West, Mr. Clutch, but he's always a pretty clutch playoff player.
He's great in the playoffs.
Lowry, as I recall. Yeah.
That's why I'm blaming injuries. And I'm not trying to be a guy who, it doesn't matter. The Celtics will get through. It doesn't matter how. I would take it as a Heat fan if the Celtics were hurt. I don't give a shit. I'm just saying, like, these are guys that never do. Like, Lowry's looks tentative. Like, Lowry's never tentative. Lowry's very aggressive. And he's like, he and Butler look so, like, skittish. And I'm like, okay, something's going on. Like, these two guys never give a shit. And they look so skittish. I'm like, that's when I sort of mailed it in as a fan. I'm like, yeah, it is. If they win, they'll shock me because I don't see. Eventually, Tatum and Brown are going to hit shots. And these guys don't look like they have it. They just, I mean, Strus is going to the locker room. Herro's wearing his fucking sunglasses. I'm like, okay. I'm like, it felt like last year when they played the Bucks where I was like, okay, yeah, good luck.
I think there's a little bit of a different approach in the coach's approach to when things are going wrong. Spo seems pretty scientific, philosophical about the whole thing. And this Udoka looks like he just wants to put a fist through your head.
Yes.
And not to say that he's not some intellectual type of coach, because obviously he's very well equipped to do the job. He's did a brilliant job.
He's done a great job
this year. Would you? Is he one of the candidates for Coach of the Year? Ime Udoka?
He should be.
No, he didn't get it. All right, yeah, because the Phoenix guy got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was 3 guys. I think it was the. Was it the Grizzlies coach?
Was Jason Kidd one of the nominees for
I don't know. I got to look. Because they only did 3. They should have had 5 because Kidd deserved some shine. And the Grizzlies coach for sure deserved. I mean, they didn't have Morant most of the season, and they were just as good without him, which is fucking mind-blowing. Looking at the Heat, without Jimmy Butler, they're a very different team. The fact that the Grizzlies can be very similar with or without Morant is spectacular. He definitely deserved it, the Grizzlies coach.
He was great.
I don't
remember his name either. I mean,
I don't know his name at all.
It was like took me 3 years to recognize Budenholzer as the coach of the Bucks. It did, everybody was a disciple of the Popovich coaching tree. Everybody. How many coaches did they have at San Antonio?
It's just
incredible.
I don't know.
He coached for Pop. That's all you need to know. Yeah, he worked with Pop. Yeah, Pop was his mentor. Pop loved him. Pop didn't want to see him go. Pop tried to deny him a chance to get the interview for the job. He really loved him on the bench. It's all Popovich.
Look, I may sound like an excuse maker. To me, what happened in Game 4 was frustrating. Now, Jimmy Butler, realizing he just isn't healthy, and he didn't want to blame the knee, so good for him. He's out there doing everything he can. Cool. The dude's not himself. Like, he literally was attacking the rim at will or working for good shots and hitting them. He was hitting his jumper like science. He can't hit the side of a barn, and his shots are falling short. And he's not going to the basket at all. And when he goes to the basket, he looks ginger. He looks timid. He doesn't look like the guy we've seen the entire playoffs, who was the best player in the playoffs this postseason until Game 3. You don't want to blame Pritchard, fine. I'm not saying Pritchard went out to hurt Jimmy Butler and take him out of the series like it's the 1980s or the 1960s. I'm not saying he did that. What I'm saying was the play was dirty. Jimmy Butler was already past him. He wasn't going for the ball. He grabbed his leg. He tripped him. 6 minutes later, Butler is out for the half. And Butler since then has not been the same dude at all. I mean, it's not coincidence. It's clear what happened. And since then, the Heat have fallen on their face. They won a half without Butler, but he is their best player by far. And then on top of that, Kyle Lowry has had a hamstring the whole playoffs, and we know what a hamstring is. It doesn't go away by playing. You need to not play for a long time. PJ Tucker, we know, is banged up, but he's a warrior, quote unquote, so he's out there. And Herro's not even playing. And when he was playing, he was out. So he must have had a leg issue, and then it got made worse. These aren't excuses. These are facts. This is reality. Well, you have 4 of your top 5 players, 3 of your 3 top scorers. I don't care who you are. Look, and the Heat, the difference for me between Game 4 and 5 was effort. Game 4, yeah, you didn't have Butler, but the whole team was just eh. And the Celtics punched you in the mouth at the beginning, the middle, and the end. At least last night, they had the effort. They were out there. They were in the Celtics' face. They made it tough. They hung around. It was a 1-point game with like 4 minutes left in the third quarter, and they were in the game. But the Celtics at some point were going to hit shots, and you had to match that. Well, again, everyone's hurt. When you have 5 guys shooting jumpers and everything's short, if you play basketball in your life, you know what that means. Like, you get your power from your back, from your legs, your core, and your legs is where you get your shot from. Well, if you have leg issues, your back issues, your shot's going to be off. It's going to be short. That's what it was. Call it an excuse. Call it whatever you want. It's why I'm not as defeated after last night's game as I was Game 4, because you know what? They tried. They did their best. The Celtics didn't beat them. The Celtics weren't even that great. The Celtics haven't been that great. That's why, to me, the Celtics are massively overrated. They're going to get to the finals because they're playing a battered and bruised Heat team. And it is what it is at this freaking point. You know, like, you're trusting Caleb Martin and Vincent and Strus to win you playoff games, Eastern Conference Finals games. I mean, come on. So to me, it's like, look, the Celtics, will win. They're going to be in the finals, but this Heat team, it's a success to me because this was supposed to be a 4-6 seed. They were a number 1 seed. Everyone counted them out every round. People thought the Hawks may give them a fight. People picked the Sixers, and everyone picked the Celtics to beat them. And if Jimmy Butler doesn't get tripped by Pritchard, they beat the Celtics in 7 games, maybe in 6, because Game 4 isn't that disaster, and Game 5 they win. And game 6, they could have gone back and won. When you don't have Jimmy Butler and then everyone else is hurt too, I mean, what are you going to do? So it was a tough game. It was tough to watch. I thought both of these teams were going to lose to the Warriors. I still think that. So let the Celtics go. The Warriors are the best team right now. They're just as good defensively as the Celtics, and they're way better offensively. And the core three, Green, Thompson, Curry, are getting up there. Curry is still really good. Thompson and Green are not the same guys. They're going to move forward because they have a nice young core. Poole's legit. Kuminga. You're going to get Wiseman back. So they're a team that's going to be around. But it feels like to me, the swan song of this, those three guys being the main dudes and them winning. Because you have the Nuggets coming, and when the Nuggets are healthy, they're going to be scary. You have the Mavs coming on. You have the Suns still there out west. Who knows what happens with the Lakers and the Clippers. And then out east, the Heat will be better next year. That's what's funny. This wasn't the year for the Heat. Oladipo was just messing around. We've seen Oladipo's healthy. He looks good. Just needs to find his offensive game. Which that's what he'll actually have a healthy offseason to find his offensive game. And hopefully the Heat, they have bird rights. He wants to be here. They want to keep him. It'd be perfect to have him. Lowry, this is his first year here. He's an older dude, but he can settle into that role of being the point guard, being the leader, giving you 10 to 15 points, once in a while 15 to 20. Problem is right now, with the hamstring, he's giving you 0 to 6. You can't have that from Kyle Lowry. Jimmy Butler is playing the best ball of his career right now. Jimmy Butler is a definitive top 15, and the way he played in the playoffs, a top 10 player. You have him as your center. And then Herro and Bam have shown us they can get better. They're better players, but they're not a 1-2. They're more of a 3-4-5. Well, with Oladipo, Lowry, Butler, Herro and Bam can slide in as your 4th and 5th best players. And also Strus, Martin, Vincent have become legit role players on a playoff team. They got valuable experience. They're only going to get better. This was like the appetizer to me. So that's why, to me, the Heat getting the Eastern Conference Finals, going to 6. If they were healthy, they would have gone to the finals and lost to the Warriors. They're only going to be better next year. So that with the Heat. Then you have the Bucks, who will have Middleton back. I think the Celtics are good, but to me, they're a notch below the Bucks, the Heat, and I don't know what the Nets are going to be. If Irving comes back, you can work in Ben Simmons, the Nets could be interesting. So to me, the Warriors are the class right now. They're just in a different world, and I think they'll go ahead and win it all. And then next year is going to be a whole different ballgame. It's going to be wide open once again. If you want more wide open, you want more of us, the Defo Show with Lubie, check us out in the mornings tomorrow, 7 to 9. Just Google the Defo Show, DEFO. Check us out on the Believe Network. Today, we talked a lot of college football, as you had the tete-a-tete last week between Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban. While we talked with Coach Tim Brewster, was a monster recruiter, coach with Florida State, went on to A&M, went on to Carolina, went on to Florida. He's a guy who's coached the likes of Antonio Gates and Kyle Pitts. We talk NIL transfer with Coach Tim Brewster today on After Hours with Defo and Lubie on the Believe Network. Just go to BLEAV.com. Search After Hours. And check us out each and every day with our South Florida content right here, The Defo Show with Lubie, on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Play the ponies in style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Recently, we realized it's not just hurricane season that can hurt us. Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business. And the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. Before you call the insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752. Would you go into court without an attorney? So why would you go up against an insurance company without Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa? 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Give them a call at 954-809-8752. Why go up against insurance companies alone when you can have Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa on your side?